In a surprise announcement, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin have agreed to meet face-to-face. The meeting is scheduled for Thursday, May 15, 2025, in Istanbul, Turkey. This will be the first time the two leaders have met since the outbreak of war in February 2022. The announcement has sparked cautious optimism around the world. Many hope it could signal a path towards ending the devastating conflict. The meeting was first proposed by Putin during a televised address. He called for direct negotiations with Zelensky without preconditions. The statement came as a surprise to many. It marked a departure from Russia's previous insistence on Ukraine accepting certain terms before any talks. Zelensky initially responded cautiously. He called for a complete, lasting, and credible ceasefire. Zelensky emphasized that the ceasefire must begin before any talks could take place. He set a deadline of May 12th for the ceasefire to begin. Despite his initial hesitation, Zelensky ultimately agreed to the May 15th meeting in Turkey. This decision came after intense pressure from international leaders. The announcement of the meeting offers a glimmer of hope in what has been a brutal and bloody conflict. However, significant obstacles remain. The path to peace is long and uncertain. Both sides have much to discuss and agree upon if they are to find a lasting solution. The road to the meeting in Istanbul has been paved with demands and conditions from both sides. Putin has insisted that the talks must address what he sees as the root causes of the conflict. This suggests a demand for Ukraine to accept neutrality. It also implies recognition of Russia's territorial claims to parts of Ukraine. The Kremlin has pointed to a 2022 draft peace deal as a starting point for negotiations. This agreement, which was abandoned after the initial invasion, included provisions for Ukraine to remain neutral. It also called for Ukrainian recognition of Russian sovereignty over Crimea. This indicates that Moscow may be seeking significant concessions from Kyiv. Zelensky, on the other hand, has remained steadfast in his demands for a complete withdrawal of Russian troops. He has also insisted on Ukraine's territorial integrity. This includes the return of Crimea, which Russia annexed in 2014. Zelensky has stated that Ukraine is open to discussing neutrality. However, he insists this can only happen after a full Russian withdrawal and with security guarantees from the West. The stark differences in the two leaders' positions highlight the challenges ahead. Reaching a mutually acceptable agreement will require significant compromise from both sides. It remains to be seen if either leader is willing to make the necessary concessions. The international community, particularly European powers, has played a significant role in pushing for dialogue. Following Putin's proposal for talks, European leaders, including UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, French President Emmanuel Macron, and German politician Friedrich Merz, travelled to Kiev. They met with Zelensky and demanded an unconditional 30-day ceasefire from Putin. This demand was backed by the threat of massive new sanctions against Russia. These sanctions would target Russia's energy and banking sectors. The European leaders stressed the importance of a ceasefire to allow for meaningful negotiations. They argued that talks could not proceed while fighting continued on the ground. Putin, however, dismissed the ceasefire demand as an ultimatum and insisted that talks should address the root causes of the conflict before discussing a ceasefire. This rejection highlights the difficulty of finding common ground. It also underscores the deep mistrust that exists between Russia and the West. Despite the challenges, the involvement of European powers and the threat of further sanctions demonstrate the high stakes involved. The international community recognizes the need for a peaceful resolution. They are willing to use both diplomatic pressure and economic leverage to achieve it. As Zelensky and Putin prepare to meet, the world watches with bated breath. The upcoming talks offer a glimmer of hope. However, the path to peace is fraught with uncertainty. The recent escalation in fighting, with both sides accusing each other of violating ceasefire agreements, underscores the fragility of the situation. Deep divisions remain. These are rooted in historical grievances and conflicting visions of the future. The outcome of the talks will depend on the willingness of both leaders to engage in good faith. They must be prepared to make difficult compromises. Even if the talks are successful in achieving a ceasefire, the road to lasting peace will be long and arduous. It will require addressing the root causes of the conflict. It will also require rebuilding trust and fostering reconciliation between Ukraine and Russia. The international community must remain actively engaged, providing support and encouragement to both sides as they navigate this challenging process. The meeting in Istanbul represents a crucial moment. It is an opportunity to break the cycle of violence and move towards a more peaceful future. The world can only hope that both Zelensky and Putin will seize this opportunity. The fate of millions hangs in the balance.